Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils, speaking lies in hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron.
And a special thanks to the members of the Roosevelt family who are here, and to one who is not, Eleanor. I know that because, as all of you famously learned when I served as president, my wife, now the Secretary of State, was known to commune with Eleanor on a regular basis. And so she called me last night on her way home from Peru to remind me to say that. That Eleanor had talked to her and reminded her that I should say that.
Here on the top of the Capitol Dome in Washington, you can see the Goddess of Freedom, also known as Semiramis, Queen of Babylon, who later became Isis of Egypt. Now, we suggest the dome itself represents the womb of the goddess. So, if the dome represents the womb of the goddess, we should find nearby the phallus of the god, ready to impregnate her and bring forth the spirit of the sun god. And we most certainly do. Facing the dome is the phallus of the sun god, the Washington Monument. During his research for his amazing book, Apollyon Rising 2012, which actually hit #1 in the book charts the day of its release, Dr. Tom Horn travelled to Washington, D.C., where he met with Masons at the House of the Temple, the headquarters of the Supreme Council of the Scottish Rite. Horn says these men were very cordial and mostly responsive to his questions. They even confirmed his understanding of the influence of Freemasonry in American history. It was only when he pressed one of them about a ritual called the raising ceremony, the raising of Osiris from the dead, it's also known as, which is conducted in the temple room on the 3rd floor of the building. It's only then that these Masons became evasive and visibly uncomfortable. The reason for this, according to Dr. Horn, is that in addition to the raising ceremony being conducted when members reach the 33rd degree of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, this strange ceremony is performed without public knowledge in this very temple room at the inauguration of every United States president. Why is that? Because deep esoteric meaning behind Egyptian and Rosicrucian magic that was incorporated into the rites and rituals of Freemasonry hold that the spirit of Osiris can be raised from the underworld and installed, for want of a better term, in the reigning king or president. According to Tom Horn, this is why the US Capitol Dome is laid out so as to face the obelisk, the phallus of the sun god, known as the Washington Monument. An interesting point regarding the obelisk in Washington, the Washington Monument. The column is 6,666 inches high, and each side is 666 inches long. Now, obviously, this cannot be an accident, because we remember that the Antichrist's number in the Bible is 666.
This is Dabu 7, wanting to take you inside of the $100 million penthouse on the 66th floor of Trump Tower. And no, this is not lifestyles of the rich and famous. This is exposing sun worship in the occult, and his penthouse is littered with all kinds of imagery. You can see the Masonic pillars. This theme is copied all across this place. It is mirrored in the floor and in the ceiling, literally, as above, so below. In all of this is set off by some interesting detail that I want to share with you. Now, in the background, back here on the right, you have a family portrait. They say the siblings, and then a picture of his father, this book worth $15,000, that is sitting here, pillow with his coat of arms. But then we get to the other pictures and the statues and the vases. And what it symbolizes is exactly what Trump believes in. You see, on the wall here, the centerpiece is Apollo, the sun god, the son of Zeus, centered between the pillars, dead center, showing his loyalty, showing what he believes is important. Do you know who Eros and Psyche are? Look into the story here. One of the children of Aphrodite. You see, and this love affair ended up peaceful only because of one reason. Because Zeus said it was going to happen and overrid Aphrodite. Now, Zeus had a son named Apollo and a twin sister named Artemis. And Apollo was the god of the sun. Sun worship. And what is very telling about this sun worship is that even right here in the headline, they point out that this is Apollo up in this picture up here, led by Aurora, the Greek goddess of the dawn, suggesting that Trump sees himself the mold of Apollo, Zeus's son, one of the most powerful of the gods. All depicted right here, just in this one room. Well, let's move on. Take a look here, and you can see the theme of the pillars is repeated once again. But this is when we start to pick up on some of the murals that are on the ceiling, and they are very interesting. As you can see here, and I've covered this in multiple other videos, we're talking about the Statue of Liberty looking identical to who? Apollo, the sun god. And who do we have right here with the torch? You cannot see this whole thing displayed in full, but it is pretty interesting if you ask me. Now we go down here to another view. And remember, the last painting that was on the ceiling was over here depicting this. Here we have another setting. See all the pillars. What do we have up here? Well, sure enough, and they even state it. So you know I'm not making this up. Once again, it is Apollo, riding in his chariot across the heavens. So, this man never says it. He never speaks it. He doesn't ever say in public what he has his allegiance to. But it's pretty clear to me by looking at everything he has in his penthouse on the 66th floor. It is laced with sun worship and Apollo. And this goes hand in hand with the Vatican, Egypt, the obelisk, the huge sundial at the Vatican, all of this. The huge sun on a stick that the Pope carries around. Is it all starting to make sense to you now? Zeus, the Pharaoh Zeus. Obama, in one of his main speeches, it was on one of my channels that got eliminated. If you played that main speech backwards, in it, he says, "Hail to the Pharaoh Zeus," showing once again what they worship, who they worship, and of course, his beloved sun god, Apollo. Right here, it's in the wide open. I'll leave links, eyes open.
1 Corinthians 10:21. Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils. When it comes to Halloween, it is especially important for you as a parent to understand how demonic Halloween truly is. It is an occult holiday where the demons are manifesting right before your very eyes. As you dress up your children in aims of having a great wholesome family time, you do not realize that you're partaking of something so demonic and so evil that can harm your children, that can bring forth a lot of demonic activity in your home, open yourself up for sleep paralysis and many more things. And we live in this type of a society where in horror films nowadays you consistently see them getting more and more and more demonic. I grew up in the era of Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Krueger, and I used to love all of those films. I used to love all of those films when I wasn't a believer in Christ. But as you've noticed in many Hollywood films, the films have gone from that extreme to now the more demonic. It is the aim of Satan to slowly desensitize you to witchcraft, to slowly desensitize you to the occult. This is why the scriptures tell you, 2 Corinthians 11:14, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. It has been a slow indoctrination into the occult. In Halloween, it is especially extremely evil. Witches, many witches believe this is their new year. Many witches during this day are performing rituals, sacrifices, and many more occult things. But the devil has tricked many churches, forgetting 3 John 11. Beloved, follow not that which is evil, but that which is good. He that doeth good is of God, but he that doeth evil has not seen God. And you cannot mix the holy and the profane just because your child is interested in doing Halloween. And if you can teach your child from a very early age the wickedness of Halloween, you train your child up in the way that he or she should go, because that is your responsibility as a parent. The topic of trick or treat. Study the origins of Halloween. When you study the origins of Halloween, you can take him all the way back to the Tower of Babel with Nimrod and Semiramis. I made a very detailed video on this last year, and I'll put a link on the screen for that video. But here's a slide from last year that I discussed. The horned god. In some Wiccan traditions by Simon, the goddess has entered into her incarnation of crone. This is the goddess that rises up in Easter, Ishtar, the queen of heaven, which God prohibits you from worshiping. But in this point in time during this year, Wiccan traditions, some of them tell you that she is entering into her incarnation of crone. She is the old one, the earth mother, the wise one we turn to when we need advice according to Wiccans. According to Wiccans, she teaches us that we must let go in order to move on. So at this particular time of the year, during Halloween, the god at Semen is the horned one, the stag of great antlers, the god of the wild hunt. He is the animal that dies so that we may eat, and the grains and corn that once lived in the field before our harvest. They worship the god of the wild hunt, a god that has antlers. This is typical of Babylonian traditions. This is typical of Baal worship, for them to worship horned gods. And he is the god of the wild hunt. And Nimrod was a mighty hunter. Brothers and sisters in the Lord, Halloween, yes, we can trace him back to the Druids, but it even goes even further than that. It is very demonic to the core.
How did these ancient traditions survive into our modern era? In Western culture, they were preserved by, of all people, Christians. In a bizarre twist of history, as Christianity spread, it adopted and reimagined pagan folkways rather than try to stamp them out. This made it easier to convert pagans. A key pagan festival destined to get a Christian makeover was Lemuria, when celebrants placated the dead, culminating on May 13th.
Of all the different days that they have in the Roman calendar to celebrate the dead, it was the spookiest. So on the Lemuria, what are called the larvae, the ghosts of the departed, would come up and haunt people.
To quell the dead, pagan Romans poured milk onto their graves or offered them little cakes. But the church co-opted Lemuria in 609 AD, turning May 13th into All Saints' Day, a day to honor the most holy of dead Christians.
Setting aside this day was an attempt to Christianize this very pagan festival, and yet at the same time what it did was it kept a lot of the same themes going.
The Christianized version of Lemuria was such a success that church leaders made a decision that eventually gave rise to Halloween. They moved All Saints, or Hallows Day, to November 1st to drain the life out of pagan Samhain. Because Samhain fell on the night of October 31st, before All Hallows Day on November 1st, people started calling Samhain All Hallows Evening, the evening before All Hallows Day. This shortened into All Hallows Even, and finally into Halloween. And then, to be safe, the church went one step further, adding a holiday to honor not just saints, but everyday Christians. November 2nd became All Souls Day, a church-sanctioned holiday to honor the departed.
When you send your child trick-or-treating, the point of trick-or-treating to the Druids and other traditions, they believed that during this day, that evil spirits were roaming the earth. Evil spirits were roaming their towns. It was a time where the weather was very cold. Crops were not growing properly. So they associated that with the dead. So what they did was, in order for them to leave their homes, they dressed up in costumes, in evil masks, in any type of a way to avoid these evil demonic spirits. But it went worse than that. On that day, they would actually leave treats in front of their homes in the forms of vegetables, groceries, and so forth, as sacrifices so that the evil spirits would not harm them. If you look at different traditions, it was even darker than that. Human sacrifices were involved. Witchcraft was involved. Animal sacrifices were involved, all in the name of these demonic spirits. They did not overcome evil with good in the sense of Jesus Christ. They did it with evil. That's how witchcraft works. There are a lot of people that turn to Santeria, which is witchcraft, to combat evil, instead of turning to the true power, which is Jesus Christ. So when someone knocks on your door and they say, trick or treat, think about the words alone. Hey, I'm gonna trick you if you don't give me a treat. That's manipulation, first of all. Aside from that, think of what you're doing when you're giving them candy. You're giving them a sacrifice so that you can ward off those bad spirits. Now, of course, you can say you're taking it to the extreme, Tally. I understand that you may say that, and I realize that, but all I'm showing you is the origins of all of this stuff. I'm not necessarily telling you that you're sacrificing anything. But souling, ghouling, all of these traditions are not of God. The jack-o'-lantern, there are many believers that are watching this that have jack-o'-lanterns in front of their homes. According to the legend, Jack was a man who played a lot of tricks upon people. And long story short, he made a deal with the devil that the devil will not take him to hell. Okay? So when he died, he tried to make it to heaven. And he couldn't make it to heaven. He couldn't go to hell. He couldn't go to heaven. So he was stuck here on earth, roaming the earth. So the devil, as a courtesy to him, tossed him this ember, this light, this orb, if you will, so that Jack can actually light himself into the way. So Jack's favorite meal was a turnip. He took a turnip, carved it out, and put that orb inside the turnip. And he roamed the earth with the turnip, with the orb inside. Thus came the jack-o'-lantern. The reason they did jack-o'-lanterns was to ward off Jack, the evil spirits. And there's other traditions that show you that the jack-o'-lantern is made to bring forth good spirits and ward off bad spirits. So when you carve out a pumpkin, right, because the turnip turned into a pumpkin, and you put a candle inside, what do you think that's representing? Yes, we modernized paganism. We've modernized it and made it okay, right? But you're basically in the spirit realm. You're basically in the spirit realm to these demonic entities. They're saying, look at that person. They believe in the jack-o'-lantern story. You see, all of these rituals, all of these stories turn to evil to get rid of evil. When the reality is that you don't need evil to get rid of evil. You need the power of Jesus Christ. Does the Bible not say in Leviticus 19:31, regarding not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them? I am the Lord your God. Does the Bible not say in Micah 5:12, and I will cut off witchcraft out of thine hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers? My brothers and my sisters in the Lord, in Ephesians 5:11, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. Reprove them. Okay, so if you want somebody knock on your door, you want to give them a Bible tract? Give them a Bible tract. Preach the gospel. Your kids want to participate in it? No, honey. No, we can't do that. No, sweetie. No, we can't do that. But let's have a Bible study. How about that? Oh, but mom, I want to carve a pumpkin. Oh, my mom, I want to... Listen, I know you want to do all that stuff, but all of that is not of God. Train your child up in the way that he or she should go, because these little compromises that you make now, when they get to 15, 16, 17, 18, they're going to get out of hand. And then what you're going to do? Well, mom, you allowed me to do that little witchcraft. What's this witchcraft? Right? Because then they turn to Wicca. And this is not about being extreme in these senses. You have to understand that you also have to protect your children. A lot of the candy that you get from Halloween, you don't know if that's tainted or not. Many kids actually are abducted during Halloween for a lot of satanic purposes. We sometimes do not understand how evil things really are because Satan has modernized things and made it okay and cool. I've had Christians tell me, Tally, I'm not going to do the evil stuff. The evil stuff I'm not going to do. But I'm still going to go to a Halloween party in places full of witches, which are out there loving it. This is their New Year. How do you celebrate New Year's in America? You have parties, fireworks, hugging each other. Wow, it's here. That's how they view it. It's the rise of the horned god. So, may God bless you. I hope this at least warns some of you parents out there before you go trick-or-treating. I love you very much in Jesus Christ. Remember, our website is always there for you. If you have prayer requests, there's a button on there for you to put prayer requests. Thank you for always passing by. Keep my family in prayer. Thank you for your support, for your kindness, for anything that you ever do. Every time you pass by each week, you have no idea how much that means to me. And love you very, very much. Thank you so much for passing by. God bless you.
Jessie. Jessie.
What's the matter with Jessie?
She was abandoned in a box for years. You're gonna get in a box.
What?
It's the only way to free Woody.
No way. I can't. I can't do that. I can't get in a box. I can't. There's got to be another way.
Well, you guys, October 2013, Toy Story of Terror. Human trafficking is what you're really looking at. Now, I couldn't even believe what I was watching, but after putting it together with all the other Toy Story films, this picture emerges that what they're really showing us is child trafficking. Now, in this film, they go to the Sleepy Motel, and that is code for what they do to the kids to traffic them. And their toys who are stolen by this man that works at the Sleepy Motel. He runs this hotel, and he has this iguana steal these kids' toys, and then he sells them on eBay. He takes a picture of them, and then they go for auction. Now, Johnny Gosh's mother, who went missing in the 80s, said that there were people out taking pictures of Johnny Gosh before he was abducted, and that they were trafficking the pictures through magazines and different things. They didn't have the internet back then. And that people would auction the pictures, and then they would go abduct the children. And that is what we see in Toy Story of Horror. Now, there's always a cover story with these people. But when we get down into the nitty-gritty and the details of what they're showing us, the truth emerges, and it's undeniable. This goes back to MK Ultra Project Paperclip, and you see the soldier, and his name is Carl. And there's a big Carl and a little Carl, a big heart, a little heart, a big paperclip and a little paperclip inside of it. These are the pedo symbols, and they're repeated in this short 21-minute film. The paperclip is Project Paperclip. It's MK Ultra. It's the fracturing of the mind through trauma, so that the child finds an alternate personality, a smaller personality within the bigger personality. And this is what happens to them when they go through this experience. Now, I remember being a child and suffering trauma and wanting to just play dead, like a possum. Now, I couldn't find anything on the internet about that being a characteristic of child abuse, but as a child, I specifically remember that if I could just pretend that the trauma wasn't happening and I could disassociate from myself and play dead, that it wouldn't hurt. If I could just imagine myself somewhere else. And this is what these toys do. When a human walks in, they disassociate. They fall lifeless and dead. So now you're starting to see the minds behind all of these different animations. This is crazy. You could have never imagined that this was possible. Now this red carpet, the red drapery, we saw this repeated in Toy Story, I think it was 2, where Woody was also abducted and trafficked. The same thing, they took pictures of him. Okay, and they showed the building was like red. It had a red carpet and a red veranda. Well, they have the same red here, and that stands for trafficking, like the red light district. So now you know the truth, you guys. Here you see Wilson Phillips. That's a reference to Tom Hanks. Wilson, the volleyball. Phillips is Captain Phillips, the movie he played in. I know it's also a group. Take care and be safe, everybody.
What started out as a classic horror film has turned into something more of a tragedy.
And since Rome claims itself to be the one true church, you would think they would lead by example. But what kind of example is this? That you have a depiction of Lucifer underneath the Vatican for countless hundreds and hundreds of years? Now this image here underneath the Vatican has been there since their claim, which would be Constantine, we would know that he was the first one that built this basilica. And so again, we ask ourselves, why are they keeping this depiction of Lucifer underneath the Vatican? Well, we think the answer for why all these images, idols, are kept underneath the Vatican is because what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with an apostate church that has always been apostate, and even now, as it is filled with Freemasons. And so we know that the reason why they're keeping all this there now, and they're actually revealing this on their internet website, is because they want people to see this. They want people to see what they're really all about. For the masses who believe that Rome is still a pure church, they don't mind deceiving them into believing that they are still a Christian church. As you go down underneath the Vatican, down into the next rooms, they will try to convince you on this tour that you take that Peter is buried down there in one of the rooms, and that this gives credence to following the Pope. But we ask the question, why would you want to follow a Pope who has all these evil things underneath his church? It's very clear by this depiction of Lucifer that the devil is in the Vatican. He's hidden way down underneath the Vatican at St. Peter's Basilica. Now, if you are a Catholic and you are watching this video, we want to encourage you to come out of that church. As you can see from these images and these idols that are kept underneath your church, we would hope that you would soberly think about these things and ask yourself the question, if my church is a true church, why is it promoting these things?
Been talked about as an act of God. The Vatican, struck by lightning on the same day Pope Benedict XVI shocked his cardinals by announcing his resignation. The frequently stumbling pontiff has long stayed off rumours of deteriorating health. In this instance, he's caught napping during a moment of sanctity while visiting the flock in Malta. Benedict began his reign as Catholicism's mitre-wielding man of cloth in his late 70s. He endured a broken wrist and a very public attack, giving rise to concerns that he may become vulnerable after suffering a stroke. Just recently, and perhaps another sign from God, the pontiff's dove of peace found itself flying solo against a wall. The symbol of harmony and purity was then set upon by a vengeful seagull, leaving the faithful questioning the mind of God. Perhaps the reign of Benedict is ending not because of his age or health, but because he simply didn't have the cool factor of the Pope who went before him.
Gregory's. Who's here? It's the brilliant detective who sealed my brutish fate. Remember this, Hobbs? What goes around really goes around.
You have a safe trip, yeah?
Is on my side.
Go ahead! Light up my life! Criminals like Reese, they kill a few people, somehow it ain't their fault. But what took place tonight is the consequences of what I do.
You're home early today.
For a change.
Detective John Hobbs wants to uncover the truth.
What does Azazel mean? Now, my dictionary says that evil spirit of the wilderness.
Walk away, Mr. Hobbs.
But nothing in this world
Is on my side.
can help him solve this case.
There are angels. Some of these angels were cast down, and a few of the fallen were punished by being deprived of form.
Come on, get out of here.
And each touch
And at the execution, did he try and touch you?
Yeah, he did, actually.
passes the soul of a killer into someone new.
Well, I believe what I see, and I'm still trying to get my mind around what I just saw.
Some things, pal, you shouldn't know.
I know you, Hobbs.
Put the gun down.
I know who you are.
Put the gun down!
Is on my side. Hey, pal.
My work is based upon evidence.
And aren't your facts resistant to normal interpretation?
Hey, Hobbs.
You leave my family alone.
I'm still having fun.
Denzel Washington,
How do we fight him? Is it even possible?
I believe it is.
John Goodman,
Jonesy, you know I didn't do this.
I know it, Hobbs.
Donald Sutherland.
I know you know more than you're saying.
Haven't you done enough, huh?
Time is on my side.
You cannot sit back and wait for a savior. First of all, giving honor to God and our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama.
And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven.
Be still and know that I am God, that I am God, that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth.
And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. All that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
Answer the damn phone.
Shoe store.
Yes, sir.
What time are you open till?
We open till 9:30 tonight.
Yes, you've got plenty of, shoes there?
Yes, sir.
The shoes have soles on them?
Just one sole, one outsole, sir.
And how many shoes do you have in the store?
How many do I have in the
How many shoes are in the store?
Uh,
Now, can I get the soles without the shoes?
the outsoles?
Yes! I want the soles. I need the soles.
No, sir.
What?
We can't see all the soles are already glued to the shoe.
I am the Prince of Darkness. I need the soles. I command thee to speak! Our Father who art in hush puppies, hallowed be thy heel. I need souls, man! How many souls can you deliver to me today?
Deliver to you?
Take my hand. Walk in the valley of the darkness.
Do you not think an angel rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm? This work continues. The story goes on. And an angel still rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm. God bless you all. And God bless America.
Get ready to read all these words on this page without making a mistake. Look at the letter at the end and remember the sound it makes. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready to read this word the fast way. Get ready. King. Yes, king. Sound it out. Get ready. King. Sound it out. Get ready. King. What word? King. Yes, king. Boys and girls, sound this word out. Get ready. What word? Steal. Yes, steal. Read these words the fast way. Get ready. Play. Yes, play. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Let's read these words the fast way without making a mistake. Get ready. Kite. Yes, kite. Get ready. Kick. Yes, kick. Get ready. Steal. Yes, steal. Get ready. Play. Yes, play. Get ready. Must. Yes, must. Open your book up to lesson 60 on page 150.
Never see it coming. You think I'm joking?
Hey, Let It Fish. It's the 13th of September, 2018. And I almost didn't go back and look at this speech that Trump made on 9/11, but I did. And there are multiple very, very telling things, of which I'm going to share a couple with you this morning. I've gone through this multiple times pertaining to Bush Jr., reading Psalm 23 on 9/11/2001, just reading off a teleprompter. Same with Obama in 2011, 9/11, Psalm 46, just reading off a teleprompter. I mean, you can even watch this and see that it almost troubles him to read this scripture. I'm not kidding. Watch his mannerisms. And then we had Trump. You would think he would read Psalm 69, right? Well, you'll never see that happen. But what you will see is what I'm going to show you. And this is the linchpin to the whole Luciferian, satanic, Masonic ritual that is playing out all around us. And this is absolutely leading to an event of epic proportions. But remember, God is over everything. And as long as you're in Jesus Christ, saved through his blood, that these things will not harm you or put you in fear. So just remember that. But we had Donald Trump, and we're looking for the 69. And sure enough, people, he's telling a story about a woman whose husband perished in this alleged crash. And all that she wanted was her wedding ring from the crash site, okay? And it's a good thing that that's all she wanted, because nothing else remained, okay? There were no plane parts, there were nothing, no seats, no wheels, no engines that always survive plane crashes. Always. There's never any exception. Except for here in Shanksville. Not a single solitary plane part until, okay, when this first happened, some young guys, some local guys actually showed up. They got a couple of pictures. Then the first responders showed up. More pictures. There are those guys over there. It's nothing less than a missile crater. That's where a missile blew up, right? That's all there is to it. No airplane, no nothing, right? But as soon as the feds show up, they form a human chain around it and tell everybody to get the hell out of there. And this is just the way it works, folks. There was no plane crash there. And in fact, you even had the coroner himself literally say that there were no bodies found at all. Not a single drop of blood, okay? This guy, right out of his own mouth, okay? It's the most eerie thing, he said. I've not to this day seen a single drop of blood. Not a drop. So it's all a lie. And Trump is telling this story about this woman's husband, which is a lie. But listen to what he says about this heart-wrenching story, which is exactly how they keep pulling the chain of the people. People with goodwill will just latch on to these heart-wrenching stories, which are blatant lies, because they know how to feed on the goodness in you, and in turn destroy you through it. This is the depths of the evil that you're dealing with. You need to know that. You need to know you're in a spiritual war, but it's not this willy-nilly cartoon level stuff. This is for your eternal soul. And without Jesus Christ, you are doomed. You're done. There is no salvation without him. Please understand that. Now listen to what Mr. Trump said on 9/11. And this is him describing the ring that this woman wanted back. And of course they found it. It's very inspiring and just heartstring pulling tearjerker, okay? But listen to what he says.
Followed by the number 8269, the date of their anniversary.
8269. Okay, now if you understand anything, first there's your 69, your 234669. But what does it mean? 82. 82 is very interesting. There are several things that we can point to with 82, but first let's just go back 82 days from 9/11. And where does it land us? Exactly on the summer solstice. The summer solstice is you got to understand Freemasonry and how these actors, it's just amazing stuff. But just know this, the summer solstice is represented by the 69, the Cancer. Okay, it's also the keystone. This is the royal arch, and everybody's seen this. Your two pillars, Jachin and Boaz, where do they come together as one? At the keystone. The keystone is what? The 69, the Cancer. 69 is the keystone at the summer solstice. That's what this represents. This is the zodiac. This represents the summer solstice. The triple Tau. You need to look into this if you really want to know the details, but I'm telling you right now, this is what it is. And he's pointing right to it. The 69. What is his favorite day of the year? The 4th of July. He's a huge patriot, right? Well, go back 69 days from 9/11. 4th of July. Probably the biggest Luciferian celebration in this country. Because I'm sorry to tell you, but that's what this country was founded on. Okay? They tell you it's Judeo-Christian, and yes, there is a foundation of godliness, a foundation of biblical principles, but it was created in order to use that constitution that was created, through the leadership of God, as we were led to believe. But it was a god of this world, because they're using our own constitution to turn the tide of evil against the Christians, to crush them constitutionally. You understand? And it's going to bring everything to violence, and it's all coming. It's just that simple. But there's your 8269. And let's not forget, Psalm 82, just saying, I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, but you shall die like men, and fall like one of the princes. Psalm 82. Let's look at the word in the Strong's Concordance, 8269. You'll love this. Hebrew 8269. A head person of any class or rank, captain, chief, general. What is Trump? What do they all strive to be? Okay, keeper, lord, master, prince, ruler, steward. And now look at where this root word, look at this. Just wrap your mind around this. X altogether, to make self a prince, to bear rule. 6 times. To make self a prince. Okay, do you understand? I'm not the greatest at explaining these things, but this is just a continuation of this giant ritual. And it's purely satanic. And it's purely leading to a plan, conclusion in their eyes. And these things will come to pass, but it's all under the control of God. If you only seek Him through Jesus Christ, all these things will make sense to you, and you will be separate. It does not affect you. You are saved, sealed, and delivered. So seek Jesus first above all things, because this is going to come to pass. I'm just being as straight up forward as I possibly can be. Talking about a wedding ring, 8269. Ye are gods. The triple tau. The 2 becoming 1. The 69. This is what is coming. I'm just trying to get this out there, and so people can know that when you really start to understand what you're seeing in this world, the evil that your gut just tells you is encroaching upon everything, turn to Jesus. Look up, call on His name. Seriously. Because it's the only way out of any of this. It's the only way. You need to know that. And so I had to share this stuff with you. It's just something that I have to do. You know how it is. But I have to show you one more thing before I go here. And I do this every time, but I don't always share the scripture that I'm given. But I always ask for a Bible verse before I post a video. And this is pretty incredible what I got here. And this is true. This is the one I got. Genesis 6, 11 through 13. I mean, this is just really, really something that I pray people really take to heart, because it's real. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. Okay? God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Okay? That's a pretty heavy verse for the Father to give me on this video, but there it is. So keep looking up, people. Keep praying always. Seeking Jesus. loving God with all your heart, mind, and strength, because the time is short, okay? That's all.
So all these Satanists, they pretty much worship Lucifer. We're going to get into that a little bit later on as well. They perform all kind of spells and rituals within a circle with candles lit all around it. We are also going to talk about that as well. So these people, all they do is worship death, and they worship Lucifer. They believe that Lucifer is the good guy because God, quote unquote, which was in the Old Testament, on record, by the way, he had committed genocide, in other words, murder. He mass murdered a bunch of people. But yet again, the people had to also sacrifice animals, more specifically lambs, in order to, be forgiven for their sins. But then God in the New Testament gave Jesus Christ, his only begotten son, to us to die for our sins so that we don't have to sacrifice lambs anymore or even animals. So yet again, within the Bible, they believe that God had trapped Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and then Lucifer was trying to enlighten them and free them, and also that Lucifer rebelled against God in heaven, so he's actually the good guy. No, that's not what is actually, on record, because Lucifer tried to betray God. He actually tried to be just like God or even higher than him, and God wasn't having it. So then he fell from, heaven through the sky as fast as lightning when God had casted him out of heaven. So now all these Luciferians, more specifically the Satanists, devil worshippers, they believe that Lucifer is still the good guy and that, hell is this big party that when they get there, that's why you have that song Highway to Hell. And all these people salivating, especially at that, I believe, one of those music awards. I believe it was the Grammys or something like that, but it was way back in the day when you have Katy Perry and all these people salivating. This is why I call it the entertainment industry exposed as well, because all these people, the entertainers, are being used, whether they are real Satanists, witches, occultists, Freemasons, or whatever you want to call it or not. They are being used to push the agenda that Lucifer is the good guy. We got people like Madonna, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry with her music video for, Chained to the Rhythm, talking about we are trapped in a bubble and we are living in oblivion. So then we got people like Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons. I believe this is one of the episodes of a themed Simpsons show by the title of Tree House of Horror, which pretty much airs every Halloween season, depending on if they have any satanic occult rituals they want to portray to the children, just like how you seen here in this episode, which aired way back in the day, of Marge's sisters worshiping Satan in a circle with candles lit all around it and a pentagram in the middle. And of course, Marge, the good one, is shocked to go up into the attic to find her sisters worshiping Satan. And all these children at the time had watched this episode. So we got this woman right here with the serpent, which represents Lucifer, because again, they use the serpent all the time. Marina Abramovich as well, the spirit cooking demon witch. So you see the serpent on her lap, and she's doing the Baphomet, as above, so below position. And this is something else that these people believe in. Pretty much they believe in it, because in the Bible it says on earth as it is in heaven. And they know the Bible. Believe it or not, they do. Even if they have their own Bible, they know our Bible as well, which is the one Bible they should actually read. And it says on earth as it is in heaven, what goes up must come down, or vice versa. What comes around goes around. So then Baphomet is a goat with breasts and a penis, an androgynous goat, basically meaning it is half male, half female, that these people worship and pray to. And then, as I stated, they also always do rituals in circles with candles lit around them, because the circle is the circle, but the candles are what is illuminating the circle, as you've seen at previous Grammys, including this year's Grammy Awards, with the dark circle. And then around it, you see a white light. It doesn't necessarily have to be candles and a pentagram in the middle. When Adele had performed See You on Hello from the Other Side within that circle, a reference to Lucifer. So they sacrifice goats, humans, anything that pretty much breathes within their rituals, within that circle. And then you see this little, room right here. You see the pyramid with the eye of providence, the eye of Lucifer. It is not the eye of God watching over the United States, because if it was, then why would they have it painted in blood? Which red represents regeneration to these people. Black represents death. And then we have all kind of horror movies coming out every now and then. And then we got, Pure Flix, which is another, pretty much the rival of Netflix, which has nothing but Christian themed movies. I urge you to go check that out. We have Pure Flix, but yet again, we got Netflix, just to not get off topic too much. But I just wanted to mention that all the Christian movies end up independent, which is Pure Flix, but all the horror films end up on big screen, on the silver screen, because they want a lot of people to see their rituals, whether it be subconsciously, consciously, esoteric, or exoteric. So as I stated, and you're looking at it right here, they perform rituals, whether it be real rituals or mock killings within these circles. And when they perform mock rituals, that's basically them getting initiated into Satanism, witchcraft, whatever, aspect of the occult they are getting initiated into, the Freemasons, the Order of the Eastern Stars, etc., whatever, the Bones Club, Skull and Bones, 322, Yale University, whatever they are being initiated into, they do mock killings, just like at the Bohemian Grove. They do all kind of mock killings by pretending to burn a baby at the cremation of care in front of this owl that they worship, because the owl sleeps at night. No, it sleeps during the day and it stays up during the nighttime, which basically that's another thing that these people go by. As we, the normal people, sleep, they are awake, performing all kind of rituals and doing all kind of sadistic things, signing bills into law that we are otherwise unaware of until it's too late, the National Defense Authorization Act. So then you have Anton LaVey, rather, here, and all these people, they dress up in masks, whether it be of pigs, goats, skulls, bears, animals, whatever, even human flesh from time to time. And all these people dressed up in the masks, they pretty much are the ones who are performing, whether it be sexual activity like oral sex. We're going to get into the calendar in just a short second. So you see Anton LaVey performing a mock fake, in other words, ritual on this female, because it seems like she's about to be initiated into Luciferianism. So then, as I stated, they know the Bible. They do. More than likely inside and out. More than any other person who claims to be Christian even, which are lukewarm Christians. They have their own Bible, the Satanic Bible, but this Bible is purely written by man. And the Holy Bible is written by men. Yeah, it is, but it is inspired by God through revelation. So then they have another belief. Believe in yourself. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, which is Anton LaVey, or rather Aleister Crowley. I keep getting them mixed up, but birds of a feather flock together. So basically Aleister Crowley's belief within the school of Thelema. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law, in his book, I believe by the title, The Book of Life or something like that. But the Bible pretty much goes against that. It says in Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? So basically this believe in yourself is saying that follow your heart. Do what you want to do. Do what you feel is in your heart that will either get you successful, a lot of money, sell your soul to the devil, do whatever you feel like doing. And if success comes out of it, or if gratitude comes out of it, then you are doing a good thing. But at the end of the day, a lot of people who follow their heart, not a lot of people, because people who genuinely follow their heart to do good, I commend you. But more than likely, a huge population of the populace follow their heart, and it leads to deceitful things, whether it be lusting after women while you are married, getting a divorce, and then cheating on another woman and getting arrested. And that was not a subliminal shot at somebody I know. Or maybe it was. So then, as I stated, they do all kind of rituals. But when they do the rituals, they don't necessarily just do mock killings or just killings in general. They also cut flesh. They cut their flesh. You see the guy, the people throwing up the Baphomet hand gesture. And a lot of people are telling me that it means rock and roll. You gotta be kidding me. I'm gonna push you over a cliff in about 2.5 seconds. And they also do rituals in water, because this to them is going against God. They do everything backwards. I forgot to mention that. They write backwards. They walk backwards. Not necessarily walk backwards in public, because they would look like the idiots that they are. But they walk backwards, whether it be in a confined room or a cathedral or a satanic temple or in the woods or at the Bohemian Grove, wherever they are, or even a Masonic lodge, wherever they are performing their, rituals. They perform these rituals writing backwards. That's why we have backmasking in music. They walk backwards. They read the Bible backwards, which is complete blasphemy, to be quite frank with you. You know what they need to, pretty much they need to just walk backwards off of a cliff. Seriously. So then basically, as I stated, these people represent death. They idolize death. They are all for death. You see them skulls and snakes and everything black. Jay-Z, as he stated, he is a Mason of the Prince Hall Masonic fraternity on record. He says all black everything, black shoes, black cars, all black everything. I believe in Run This Town featuring Rihanna and Kanye West. I mean, come on. Come on. So then, as I stated, all these people worship death. You see these men and even maybe a woman dressed up in druid costumes and then wearing skull masks.
And every year at WrestleMania, you got to understand, WrestleMania is always in the very beginning of April. It's essentially a fertility, sorcery ritual. And the guy who owns the WWE, Vince, openly ridicules and mocks Christianity. And basically is very, very pagan. And his shows, okay, there's a Monday night show called Raw. Okay, Raw, like the sun god Ra, but it's spelled R-A-W, like raw chicken. But it's red, and it's called Raw, and it's red. He has SmackDown, and it's a blue show. So he has this red and blue polarity every single week, And then at the end of the year, well, it's at the end of the wrestling season, you get WrestleMania, but the wrestling year ends in April. So basically, he's celebrating a pagan new year with his mania of sports. And here's the thing. There's a guy named The Undertaker, okay? The Undertaker has now had 25 matches in a row at WrestleMania. I think he's the one professional wrestler in history who has appeared in the most WrestleMania matches overall. And not only that, he went 21 years undefeated right out of the gate. So he went 21-0. And then when WrestleMania 30 came around, he was going up against a guy named Brock Lesnar. And Brock Lesnar is known in wrestling as the Beast Incarnate, okay? And we're at WrestleMania 30, okay? So it's a 10, and it's a ritual thing. So Undertaker, the dead man, Death, faces off against the Beast Incarnate, okay? And the Beast defeats Death. And it's the first time Death loses at WrestleMania, the spring festival of rebirth for the pagan psychopath Vince McMahon. in his pagan ritualistic psychosis. And the fact, he murdered Chris Benoit. Everybody knows that now. And a whole bunch of, he murdered the Ultimate Warrior, a lot of people say. And those are, of course, speculation, but it's pretty much well known. He does this thing, and the beast is the first one that can ever conquer death. So we know how he feels. He feels like the beast incarnate, Satan, the Antichrist, I guess, is the only one who can defy death. That's what Vince McMahon says at WrestleMania 30 by breaking the Undertaker's 21 years of being undefeated at the Super Bowl of wrestling, essentially, or the World Cup of wrestling, essentially. And then a couple years pass. He's 21-1. He goes to 22-1. He goes to 23-1. And at WrestleMania 33, 33 in Orlando, in Orange County, the same place that the Pulse hoax shooting happened and the Christina Grimmie hoax murder happened, It comes to Orlando in Orange County, and they have WrestleMania 33. And guess what? Now, The Undertaker faces a guy named, you're not going to believe it, Roman Reigns, R-E-I-G-N-S, like the king reigns over his kingdom. Roman Reigns, And guess what? Roman Reigns is the second guy in history that now defeats death. Isn't that funny? So only the beast incarnate, Satan, or the Roman Empire can defeat death. That's what Vince McMahon wants to tell you. And now death has retired, essentially, I think. A lot of people think that after his 25 years now, because now he's 23-2, and it's 25 years of competing at WrestleMania. His first loss was at 30. His second loss was at 33. It's a lot of number magic and a lot of spring fertility magic too. And Vince defiantly wants to celebrate death. And maybe death is a holiday. Maybe death is a holiday for his satanic sect.
Dancing construction workers, angels with giant heads, and whatever these things are. It's a surreal ceremony for the opening of what's been billed as Switzerland's construction of the century. Leaders from Germany, Italy, Austria and France joined Swiss President Johann Schneider-Ammann at the spectacle in Palleggio, Switzerland, where a record-breaking 57-kilometre tunnel now cuts through the Swiss Alps. The mammoth engineering project links the stations of Estfield in the north of Switzerland to Bordeaux in the south. Work on what's now the world's longest and deepest tunnel started 17 years ago.
With a guest list that read like a meeting of the United Nations.
When you celebrate science, perhaps it's best to not get carried away. The inauguration ceremony included some, how should we put it, original choreography.
It was quite bizarre.
Aidalami, do you associate this kind of dancing with the inauguration of a tunnel?
I don't understand
it's leaving
art
you
enough.
speechless.
It leaves me speechless.
So the internet has been ablaze, in shock over what transpired in Switzerland with the opening of the longest and deepest tunnel in the world. Conspiracy research community and regular folk across the spectrum alike were in disbelief. What many are saying was the most open, satanic, occult ritual of all time. Even much worse than the 2012 Olympics. But it was truly shocking. It has definitely hit me to my core. When I first saw it, especially the end of the ceremony, my heart was heavy, and it's just difficult to watch, but I was reassured that after what I just witnessed, there's going to be some disturbing and bizarre times ahead, more than we've ever seen. That much we should realize. These Freemasons, these so-called ruling elite, they now know they can perform outright blatant satanic rituals short of literally sacrificing a human being on screen and easily get away with it. They don't care. They no longer care. It's just another indication that shows you just how close we are. We're in the final phase of a plan spanning hundreds, if not thousands of years, And if what transpired in Switzerland doesn't wake you up to that, I don't know what will. This ritual was a ritual for the unleashing of the underworld. Gotthard Tunnel, underground, CERN, underground. As you'll see in this video, the connection between this tunnel, the ritual performed there, and CERN goes far, far beyond being in the same territory and both being underground.
But there is definite viewer discretion advised because there's a lot of very disturbing imagery in it. Now this happened in Switzerland, near the Swiss Alps. Air show and bizarre performance opens the longest tunnel in Swiss Alps. This spectacular air show marked the opening of the world's longest record-breaking rail tunnel in Earthfield, running for 57 kilometers through the Swiss Alps. The ceremony continued with a freakish show where some of the half-naked performers dressed as goats allegedly tried to express the hellish work through the mountain, or the fact that the gates to hell are now officially open. Let this sink in here for a moment. This is how the secular world, a Russian newspaper, described this event where 4 heads of state were at. Even the secular world states that it was a freak show and that it strongly hinted at and conveyed to them that the gates to hell were open. That's how blatant this show was, with the main performer being the dancing goat and other blasphemous references to Christ in this event too as well. They even parade around the lamb, and even, again, the secular world was looking at this and saying, what in the world is this showing? This is so bizarre. This is a freak show. What are they showing here? They're doing this openly. Many blatant references to Cernunnos and Pan figures and satyrs in connection to parading the dead lamb around, mocking the Lamb of God, at the same time while the goat figure is dancing around, celebrating. All during this Cernunnos dance and the witchcraft and pagan occult illustrations they were involving here, with blatant witchcraft dances as well. They're displaying sparking forges and evoking video imagery on the wall, referencing hell as well. Other pictures from being in the forge, and the fires emerging at this time, and red flames, all this coming together while the gates and the doorways are opening, bathing everything in red. This event was truly disturbing. It truly does disturb you when you watch the footage of it. This was most certainly an occult event. And they show all the red and the bloodshed that is associated with opening the door. And when they open the door, smoke emerges, just like the Bible talks about when the bottomless pit is opened. Smoke emerges as though from a great furnace. And a train comes rolling in. There's going to be a portal open. There's going to be a dimensional highway made. And things are going to come out of it, like the Bible states. And we talked about just several weeks ago, at the same time as all these other events starting, how they were blatantly letting the world know the gates of hell were about to open. With the Inferno trailer with Tom Hanks, bringing that onto the scene in connection with a lot of other things we've been studying as well, prominently featuring trains in the trailer too as well, because they use it as a picture of time traveling, moving a long time as well, but then also as a cue card to look for other events tied to the messaging as well, with the train tunnel. And we talked about how in the trailer, they talk about being in the underground and rivers of blood, because they know all these are tied together. The one leads to the other. And they know there's going to be a massive release of shedding of blood. And ties in with other messaging they've put down before with the Da Vinci Code blasphemy and the Angels and Demons film, which was filmed at CERN. All these are connected by subject matter. CERN definitely does seem to be part of opening the bottomless pit. We've talked about that before. And they're now announcing that hell is about to be unleashed. The mystery of iniquity is about to be unrestrained. And then just 2 days after that, they again prominently featured on Bing, the gates of Hades being opened with their Orcus reference, referencing Hades, the underworld. And we've seen a lot more messaging in between that, but then just recently on the 31st, a commemoration of the Hell of Verdun using some of the same public figures who were also involved at the tunnel ceremony, Merkel and Hollande, bringing attention to the Hell of Verdun, and we talked about that, and with the lighting evoking their same color messaging. And then the very next day, they went to the tunnel opening where they commemorated Cernunnos and pain coming from the underworld and persecution and bloodshed, celebrating openly that the gates to hell are about to open. They don't need to hide it anymore.
I do want to reiterate here again and drive home the point that it is irrelevant whether or not we believe the Bible to be true, Satan to be real. The important thing to understand and realize first and foremost, if you are a non-believer in the spiritual realm, spiritual warfare, etc., is these people do. And they are literally carrying out an agenda based on these ideologies. This is the reality. So in order to understand the bigger picture, understand why they perform rituals such as this, you must understand things biblically and spiritually. Let's take a look at various symbolism of this ritual and break it down in terms of time and space, CERN, and the opening of what is called the abyss, as described in Revelation. These are aspects I've covered from time to time, and it seemingly culminates with this ritual and only further solidifies my conclusion regarding the real agenda behind CERN. So what we actually see playing out in this ritual is Revelation 9:11, and that states, "And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue his name Apollyon." And as we can see, the 9/11 memorial in New York, called the Infinity Pool, is a direct reference to Revelation 9:11, and that is no coincidence. It is a direct reference and representation of the bottomless pit, the abyss, the black void. This is what they've shown us time and time again, consistently throughout history in their occult structures and locations all over the world, 9/11 Memorial, Infinity Pool being a prime example. Even RT News wrote an article on CERN and revealed the quote-unquote curious connection between Apollo and CERN. Quote, "Now on top of all the speculation as to what CERN scientists are really attempting to do with their LHC, many observers cannot help but notice that the town in France where CERN is partially situated is called Saint-Genès-Pouilly. The name Pouilly comes from the Latin Apolliacum, and it is believed that in Roman times a temple existed in honor of Apollo, and the people who lived there believed that it is a gateway to the underworld. It is interesting to note that CERN is built on the same spot." End quote. So CERN was built over the ancient site of Apollo, aka Apollyon, the destroyer. The name Apollo was often linked in ancient Greek writings with the verb apollimi or apollio, meaning destroy. CERN's Shiva, of course, is also known as the destroyer. With that said, let's look at the actual symbolism of the ritual. Let's look at the first part of the ritual, the obvious Satanism, and the worship of the angel of death, the angel of the bottomless pit. The Baphomet androgynous figure we see here, it's the Baphomet angel of death archetype with androgynous features. You can see male breasts, and that is quite disturbing, and it is exact representation of Baphomet. Here we see the green man is escorted out, surrounded by all the goat horns, and the green man, of course, is synonymous with Cernunnos, the horned god of the underworld. Moving on to the second part of the ceremony, where we see a display of projected images onto a wall or a screen, the workers form an 8-spoked wheel just before they breach through the mountain wall. 8-spoked wheels are depicted as time and space mechanisms throughout ancient artworks. They are synonymous with transcending space-time. This is why CERN's detectors, particularly the Atlas detector, is designed after the 8-spoked wheel, the 8-spoked wheel of time, because it is a time and space mechanism. This, make no mistake, is not by accident. On the projected screen, we see the mountain is now breached, representing the breaking of the veil of reality. The workers are then sucked into the void of a portal, where numerous specter-like hands are reaching out to them. Quite disturbing. Chaos ensues, and specter-like entities are released into this dimension. We now see the horned god appears in the black void, the abyss, coming out from the bottomless pit. The underworld is unleashed. At this point, we can now see the strong parallels between Gothard's ritual and CERN, particularly CERN's occult film ritual symmetry. Here you can see naked entities in the black void of the abyss is depicted in both Gothard ritual and CERN's occult film ritual symmetry. So after the collapsing of time and space, the merging of dimensions, the opening of the portal and unleashing of the underworld, we now see a clock is shown to be in disarray, going forwards and backwards, representing space-time manipulation or distortion. The same time distortion symbolism is also shown in CERN film symmetry. A brief close-up of the watch of the character named Lucas, which is a name that has been said to be an allusion to Lucifer, shows time going in reverse before abruptly stopping. Further exploring the connection between Lucifer or Satan and time, an interesting side note, in the film Winter's Tale, Lucifer, played by Will Smith, has a dialogue with one of his demon minions, played by Russell Crowe. In this scene, Lucifer informs his demon how he has no comprehension of the simple ebbs and turns of time, and eludes his understanding. Since Satan is also known as the serpent or the dragon, and the serpent is another variation of the Ouroboros, which is a symbol of time, we can see why Lucifer places so much emphasis on the construct of time in this scene. He is also shown reading the book A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking, although it is essentially unnoticeable unless you search for it, emphasizing once again the connection between Lucifer and time. All you have to do is pay attention to what the media telegraphs regarding CERN. When you see Wall Street Journal, for example, recently released headlines such as, quote, CERN is seeking secrets of the universe or maybe opening the portals of hell, end quote, and openly discuss conspiracy theories and address conspiracy theories about CERN, you know the CERN occult agenda is real. It's really happening. They are literally attempting to crack time and space, merging dimensional realities in order for the unleashing of the underworld to take place. This is why they've injected themes and symbolism associated with time travel, dimensional travel, CERN, particle collider, time distortion, portals, dimensional doors, and so much more in our media more than ever before. On one level, people will dismiss any notion of the CERN occult agenda being real, dismissing the possibility CERN is creating dimensional doors because it was shown in science fiction. It was shown on this TV show or that TV show. This is how they condition the populace on a subconscious level to accept these scenarios as purely science fiction and not possible. But make no mistake, what is seemingly science fiction is literally manifesting in our reality. This is precisely why it is possible reality itself has changed or been altered, because when human beings are tampering with forces they should never be tampering with, opening doors they should never open, the result is likely something most humans cannot even begin to fathom or comprehend.
There is an astonishing, hideous rise of devil worship, Satanism, and witchcraft among the youth. You will be shaken, startled, and disgusted. Witchcraft is on the rise throughout the world. It is surprising how many Christians are deceived concerning the dangers of witchcraft. You especially need to learn about witchcraft and the New Age movement. Now, I said this weeks ago that a New Age practitioner is a witch. You say, why did you say that? Because the spirit of the New Age movement, the spirit of the occult world, is a spirit of a witch. And witchcraft is the spirit of rebellion. Now, note carefully. There are perhaps 5 to 7 million active witches in America today, and another 35 million or so persons who studied or dabbled in witchcraft. Satan wants to control children from the womb and cradle to the grave. In all organizations, destroy their faith in Jesus, take your children from you, abuse the children, give them an unholy childhood, rob their brains in the classrooms, and guide the children into hardcore devil worship and witchcraft. How many agree with that? The plan promotes New Age movement and religion, rituals, idolatry, reincarnation, fantasy books, and games, white magic, black magic, sorcery, shamanism, polytheism, occult symbols, objects and idols, psychology, UFOs and extraterrestrials, witchcraft and Satan worship, astrology and horoscope, tarot card reading, Ouija boards, palm readings, fire walking, seances, mediums, spirit channeling, holistic medicine, physical tests and sports, and guided imagery and visualization. Basically, these are occultic rituals, beliefs, practices, artifacts, and objects, including butchery, violence, and sex. Shows are full of sexual license, magic, sorcery, and satanic violence and evil. Satan and the New Age plan are after the children, especially children of Christian parents. They want to destroy Christianity from humanity. There is a shocking assault and all-out spiritual war being currently waged against the kids by Satan's demonic legions and his New Age leadership and their millions of disciples. There are 13 doctrines of the New Age movement. Number 1, the children of the future will serve a one-world planetary government and live in a one-world culture. Number 2, patriotism to one's country must be abolished and all national barriers destroyed in order to build a one new world order. Number 3, children will accept that Eastern mystical religion is to be married to the Christianity of the West to forge a new, unified, social, and religious order of universal truths. You're seeing that right now. Number 4, teenagers and youth will rebel and revolt against their parents and against authority to help usher in the New Age world order. Number 5, youth and all of humanity must accept that the time will inevitably come when grown-ups who refuse to become part of the New Age will have to be killed. They are to be considered as lowly germs and infection or blot on humanity that must be stamped out and eradicated. Number 6, the traditional family unit is not desirable for the Aquarian or New Age. Children belong to the government, to the world and the community, the human group, not to their parents. A new kind of family unit must inevitably come into existence. Number 7, young people must be taught to believe in reincarnation and karma, the law of rebirth, rather than the resurrection and judgment teaching of the Bible. This belief must guide behavior, especially sexual conduct. Number 8, absurd and immature notions of sin and guilt must not be imparted to children by parents, teachers, pastors, and other adults. A more permissive and worldly attitude must be adopted. Number 9, children are to be taught that all religions, Christianity, witchcraft, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, paganism, etc., are equally worthwhile, and that it doesn't matter in which God one believes. Number 10, the new generation of youth must recognize that Jesus did not come to save or convert anyone, because no one is lost. When's the last time you heard some of these nationwide gurus calling themselves Christians say to anybody that you must be born again, that you're under the curse of Adam's sin, and that you've got to be saved by the grace of God? You haven't heard it, and you won't. Number 11, Christian doctrines such as that of heaven, hell, and judgment must be discarded, and the theology of the Old Testament must be repudiated. Number 12, a new age world religion must be established without Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. The Christian church is dead and must be replaced. Number 13, the coming new age world religion will emphasize the unity of all religions while rejecting Jesus Christ's profound biblical statement, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The plot to decompose and destroy the family unit, subvert Bible doctrine, and promote a one-world New Age religion and government. The roots of New Age occultism can be traced all the way back to ancient Babylon. The unholy Trinity has three divinities: Father, Mother, Son. We see in these events the roots of several cardinal New Age doctrines: evolution, human divinity, spirit worship, reincarnation, and sexual license. What does that say to us tonight? It says to us tonight that there is an organized, systematic effort to wipe the church of God from the face of the earth. And if it does not conform and become a New Age church, which the big ones are already, the emerging church movement, the big ones, they're conforming, they're becoming what the one world religion requires. And they all do it under the banner of love. I'm a hate preacher because I'm telling you the truth tonight. But the Bible said in 1 Corinthians 13 that love rejoices in the truth. But in any event, since this is true, then it is obvious that there is a systematic, concerted effort to brainwash your children and take them away from you. They'll let you pay the bills, but they want to raise them. And then when the day comes, if necessary, they will turn your children against you and take you from the face of the earth. They've already, now I believe this. Here's what I believe. I believe that these planners, these elitists, these social engineers that engineers the social world, our education and our interaction with each other and our family structures and all of that, they're engineering it. I believe that they put out test cases to see how far along that they've gotten the people, to see how far along they've brainwashed them. You can't believe what these people are saying. You can't believe what they're doing. You can't believe anything. You have what's called public consumption. The news that is for the public to consume, but it may not have anything to do with the truth. I am so saddened that the world that I was born into is not here today for our children to grow up in. We didn't have the spirit manifestations back then, the occult world. It's there. It was then. It was there. It's always been. But it wasn't on the scale that it is today. It wasn't there. But it is now. What's the point? The point is to educate you. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Yes. There's a lot of buzzwords that go along with this. You should be conscious of them. And you hear them. You hear them. You hear the vocabulary as it comes out from the pulpit in these churches. You hear their vocabulary, and obviously they're tapping into one common source. They're drinking from the same fountain. They've all got the same message with a little different spin on it. Love your children and hold them close. Hold them close. Be very careful. The books they read, the movies they go to, the stuff that they're involved with. Be very careful. The DVDs they watch when they're on YouTube, the stuff on YouTube they watch, the social network, the social media. Be very careful at who comes into their life. You can't trust anybody anymore. This is 2015. You cannot trust anybody anymore. You've got a close-knit circle of friends here at Temple. You've got brothers and sisters in the Lord that you love. And if anybody on this earth you should be able to trust, you should be able to trust each other in here. And there are many Christians, no doubt in my mind about this, outside this place that love the Lord, and you know them, then you can trust them. Once you get to know them, you can trust them. You trust their judgment about certain things. That's all well and good. But do not be naive. Don't throw your kids to the lions, because they want them. They want them. I don't know of anything that would make a witch, a New Age practitioner, a one world religion, I don't know of anything that would fill them with more glee than to look over at you and say, got your daughter, got your son, I got your children. That's what they're after. They're after our children. Now what does that mean? That means that they are vile, sinister, godless reprobates that care nothing about anything but their own gratification. That means that they don't have a heart, they don't have a soul when it comes to relation to humanity. They have none of that. That means that they are vicious. We know what's right and what's best for your children and for the world. The debate is over. We don't need your input. We are the elite. We will tell your children what to believe. We will tell your children what the truth is as we spin it. We are the ones who will educate you, and we don't care about hearing your side of the equation. If you don't agree with the sodomite agenda in this country, you are demonized, fired from your job, called a bigot and a hater, and there is no debate. These people who call themselves liberals are not liberal. They will put you to death when the time comes. How do you know that, preacher? They have put your free speech to death. And they may walk through that back door with their black coats on and their guns on their hip and their badges on their shirt, and they may come up here right in front of you one day and put handcuffs on me and lead me out the back door. And when they put the preachers from the pulpits in America, when they take the pastors and lock them up, and make no mistake about it, it will be by the thousands or tens of thousands. When they take the pastors and lock them up, for what, preacher? Just the other day, you know what hate speech is. Y'all understand, everybody's been brainwashed with hate speech, okay. Bigoted hate speech, all right. Now, the next phase is this. Hate speech is to be criminalized. So what do you mean by that? It becomes a felony for you to get up and say something hateful about somebody's sexual orientation and so forth and so on, which means you have broken the law, which means they will come and arrest you. And so when the day comes, and a lot of it depends on what this Supreme Court does right now as it defines marriage, when the day comes that they criminalize hate speech, and they come through the door and they put the handcuffs on me and take me to jail for preaching the Bible, will the church wake up? What do you think God's going to do with them if they make it to the judgment seat of Christ? This is serious business. Very serious. So we'll see. We'll leave it in the hands of the Lord. I'm just the messenger. But I have to fulfill my responsibility. And I know that the day may come when they throw me in jail for preaching the truth. And when that day comes, my only hope is this for the church, for what's left of what it calls itself the church, that when the pastors wind up in jail, that they'll wake up and say, hold on, government, you are out of order. You have completely crossed the line. When our pastors can't even preach and you're throwing them into jail under whatever pretense you want to call it, we got a big problem in this country. Maybe it'll take it. I don't know. But I know one thing, as long as I'm in this world by the grace of God, it's not because I'm great and because I've got courage. It's because I believe in Christ. As long as I am in this world, I will preach the truth.